The moment I told my mom I was pregnant, everything changed. The way her eyes darkened, the coldness that crept into her voice. It was like she saw me as a stranger, a failure. "My life is over," she said. "You've ruined everything. How could you get pregnant by a homeless man?" Those words stung deeper than I could ever explain. But what she didn't understand was that love doesn't ask for a perfect background or a fancy name. It only asks for a chance. The man I loved wasn't just homeless. He was kind, broken by life, but full of dreams. And when I found out I was pregnant, I believed my life was about to change for the better. But then the nightmare began, one that would test every ounce of my strength, faith, and love. The day I nearly lost my baby, everything shifted. I'm not just telling you a story about judgment or heartbreak. This is about fighting for hope when the whole world is against you. I never expected to meet him that day. The city was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. I was walking home from work when I saw him sitting on the park bench, unshaven, dirty clothes, eyes that looked like they carried the weight of the world. Most people hurried past him, ignoring his presence like he was invisible. But something about him made me stop. He didn't ask for money. He didn't beg. Instead, he smiled, a quiet, gentle smile that made me feel like maybe, just maybe, he wasn't the broken man everyone thought he was. His name was Daniel. He told me stories about his past, about how he had lost everything but never lost hope. We started talking every day. I know what people think when they hear about a girl falling for a homeless man. But love doesn't work like that. It's messy, complicated, and sometimes completely unexpected. Daniel wasn't just a homeless man. He was the only person who truly saw me, really saw me, in a world that often felt cold and lonely. When the test turned positive, my heart skipped a beat. I was scared, confused, and overwhelmed. I knew my mom would never accept this. The thought of telling her terrified me, but I also knew I couldn't hide it. That night, I sat on my bed and cried. I thought about the future, about the baby growing inside me, about Daniel, about the life that was about to change forever. I wanted to believe everything would be okay. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of a storm. The next day, I told Daniel. His eyes filled with tears. He promised he'd be there for me, no matter what. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. But when I told my mom, her reaction shattered me. She looked at me like I was a stranger, like I had betrayed her and our family. "You've ruined your life," she said coldly. "How could you bring a homeless man's child into this family?" Her words echoed in my mind, making me question everything. After I told my mom, the house felt colder than ever. The warmth I used to find there was gone, replaced by silent stares and harsh whispers. She barely spoke to me, and when she did, it was full of disappointment. I tried to explain that Daniel was a good man, that he loved me, and that I wasn't ruining anything, but she refused to listen. "You're throwing your future away," she said bitterly. "You'll never have a normal life now." My dad had stayed quiet, caught somewhere between shock and sadness. I realized then that my family was turning its back on me, and I was left to face the storm alone. I started doubting myself, wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe I had made a terrible mistake. But every time I felt like giving up, I thought about the little life growing inside me, and I found a new kind of strength I never knew I had. Despite the cold from my family, Daniel stood by me. He didn't have much, but he gave me everything he could: hope, kindness, and unconditional love. One evening, as we sat under a flickering street lamp, he took my hands and said, "I may not have a home or money, but I swear I will protect you and our baby with everything I have." His words were raw and sincere, and I believed him. For the first time in months, I felt like maybe things could be okay. But reality was harsh. We struggled to find shelter, food, even basic medical care. Every day was a battle, and the world seemed to punish us for daring to dream. Still, we held on, because sometimes love is all you have, and it's powerful enough to move mountains. Everywhere I went, I could feel the eyes on me, harsh, judging, whispering. People saw me as a reckless girl, a shame to her family, carrying the child of a man no one cared about. At the grocery store, a woman once hissed, "You're disgusting." At the clinic, a nurse barely looked at me, treating me like I was already a lost cause. It was as if the world had closed its doors, reminding me over and over that I didn't belong. The shame pressed down so hard I wanted to disappear. But then I'd hear my baby's heartbeat during my appointments, and suddenly the hate didn't matter. This little life didn't care about my past or my mistakes. It just wanted to live, and I was determined to fight for that life, no matter the cost. At 28 weeks pregnant, my world nearly crumbled. I started having sharp pains and bleeding. Panic hit me like a tidal wave. Daniel rushed me to the hospital, his face pale with fear. The doctors said the baby was in danger, that if I didn't get emergency care immediately, I could lose her. I lay on the hospital bed, trembling, thinking about my mom's words. Was this punishment? Was I really ruining my life? But as the nurses worked around me, I reached out and held Daniel's hand tight. In that moment, all the shame, all the judgment disappeared. It was just me, Daniel, and the tiny life fighting to survive inside me. That day nearly broke me, but it also woke something fierce inside. I wasn't giving up. Not now. Not ever. The days in the ICU felt endless. Every monitor beeped like a countdown. I was hooked up to machines, too weak to move, scared to even breathe too hard. Daniel never left my side. He held my hand through the sleepless nights, whispered promises that we would get through this. I could see the worry in his eyes, but also a fierce determination. My mom finally showed up at the hospital, her face pale and conflicted. For the first time, I saw a flicker of remorse in her eyes. She didn't say much, but her presence was a silent apology. I wanted to scream at her for all the pain her words caused, but instead, I just held onto the hope that maybe, after this, things could be different. The doctors said the baby was a fighter, and so was I. That night, the bleeding got worse. The nurses rushed in. The room spun around me. I was terrified, not just for myself, but for the tiny heartbeat flickering on the screen. I remember squeezing Daniel's hand so hard I thought I'd crush it. "Please don't let me lose her," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. Time felt like it stopped. The doctors worked fast, trying to stop the bleeding, keep the baby safe. I floated somewhere between fear and hope, praying for a miracle. When dawn finally broke, the bleeding slowed. The baby was still there, fighting, exhausted, broken, but alive. That moment changed everything. I realized I was stronger than I ever thought possible, and so was the love growing inside me. Recovering after the scare was slow, both physically and emotionally. I wasn't just healing from the bleeding, I was healing from the judgment, the loneliness, and the fear that had consumed me. Daniel stayed with me every step, bringing hope when I had none. We started dreaming again, small dreams of a life together, a home, a family, a future. My mom visited more often now, quieter and softer. She didn't say, "I'm sorry" outright, but her hugs spoke louder than words. I realized that sometimes love means breaking down walls, even when it's painful. It's about forgiveness and hope and the courage to start over. My baby's kicks became my reminder that life goes on, even when the world feels against you. Despite everything, I began to imagine what life would be like once my baby was born. Would my mom finally accept us? Could Daniel and I build something real? We found a small shelter that offered prenatal care for women like me. It wasn't much, but it was safe, a place to rest and prepare. Daniel found odd jobs to help save money. Every penny went toward baby clothes, diapers, and hope. I learned that family isn't just blood, it's the people who show up when everything falls apart. The journey ahead wasn't easy, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready to fight for the life we deserved. The day my baby was born felt like the world stopped and started all at once. I was terrified, the memories of the hospital scare still fresh in my mind. But Daniel held me steady, whispering that everything would be okay. When I heard her first cry, a rush of emotions overwhelmed me: relief, love, and a fierce protectiveness I never knew existed. She was tiny, fragile, but alive. Looking into her eyes, I felt a strength unlike anything before. This little life was proof that no matter how hard the journey, hope can triumph. My mom was there too, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, all the anger and pain melted away. We were a family, messy, broken, but real. Even after she was born, the battle didn't end. People still judged me, whispering behind my back, questioning my choices. Sometimes strangers would stare, or worse, openly criticize me for my past and my imperfect family. But every time I felt their eyes on me, I reminded myself, I'm not defined by their hate. I'm defined by the love I give my daughter and the life we build together. Daniel and I worked hard every day, proving that love and resilience could overcome even the darkest odds. I was no longer the scared girl my mom once scolded. I was a mother, fierce, determined, and unstoppable. Slowly, the walls between my mom and me began to crumble. It wasn't easy. Years of pain and harsh words don't disappear overnight. She still struggled to understand Daniel's place in our lives, but she saw how much he loved me and our daughter. One afternoon, as she held my baby in her arms, I saw a softness in her eyes I hadn't seen before. A silent apology, a quiet acceptance. It was the beginning of something new, a fragile hope that maybe our broken family could heal. I realized that forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. And sometimes love means holding on even when it hurts. Daniel's life wasn't easy. From the streets to the hospital room to our small shelter, every step was a battle. But for our daughter, he fought harder than ever. He started looking for stable work, learning skills, and building a future not just for himself, but for us. The homeless man I once feared I couldn't trust became the man I depended on. He wasn't perfect, but his heart was pure. And together, we showed the world that where you start doesn't define where you can go. As a family, we faced every challenge head on. The judgment, the hardships, the sleepless nights, they came, but they never broke us. We learned to lean on each other, finding strength in the smallest moments. Baby's first smile, Daniel's steady hands, my mom's softening heart. The world might have seen a ruined life, but we knew better. We were proof that love and resilience could rewrite any story. Every step forward was a victory, no matter how small. Together, we were unstoppable. One rainy afternoon, as I watched my daughter play, I felt something shift inside me. I remembered all the pain, the cruel words, the lonely nights, the fear of losing everything. But I also saw how far we'd come. I wasn't the girl who made mistakes anymore. I was a mother, a fighter, a woman who had taken control of her destiny. My mom's words no longer haunted me. They fueled me. I was stronger than the judgment, stronger than the past. And most importantly, I was strong enough to give my daughter the life she deserved. Forgiveness wasn't easy. It took time for me and my mom to truly heal the scars between us. But with every conversation, every tear, we began to understand each other better. She admitted her fears, her hurt, and I forgave her for her harsh words. We weren't perfect, but we were trying, and that was enough. Because love, even when tested, can rebuild what's been broken. Today, our lives aren't defined by the past mistakes or harsh judgments. Daniel found a steady job. I finished school, and our daughter thrives in a home filled with love. We're still healing, still growing, but we face each day with hope. The ruined life my mom feared turned into a new beginning, one built on resilience, forgiveness, and unbreakable love. That terrifying day in the hospital when I nearly lost my baby changed everything for me. It made me realize what truly matters isn't where you come from, but the love you give and the strength to keep going. I may have been judged, shamed, and abandoned, but I never stopped fighting. And today, holding my healthy, beautiful daughter in my arms, I know I made the right choice. Because sometimes the greatest miracles come from the darkest moments